Why is it so hard to decide what to do in the midst of a crisis? Maybe you've noticed that it's just hard to pull the trigger to do something. I believe there are two primary factors that make it really difficult. The first is shock that's associated with trauma. Stephen Leach, in his book Survival Psychology, reveals what he calls the theory of 10-80-10. When there's a life-threatening situation, and trust me, infidelity hits us in a way that it feels very life-threatening, like everything we have is undone, 10% of people are going to handle that crisis in a relatively calm, rational state of mind. They don't freak out. They don't freeze. They begin to kind of assess what's around them. They set a course of action. They come up with a plan, and they implement it. And if you're one of those 10% who's got that ability to kind of step back and spectator and somehow hang on to yourself and is able to do that, then you're really fortunate. 80% of us, however, when caught in a crisis, are stunned and bewildered. We find our reasoning significantly impaired, and that just thinking can be difficult. Many of you, at least 80% of you, know exactly what I'm talking about here. We behave in a reflexive manner. It's automatic. It's almost mechanical. It's like we just keep marching, going forward. We feel lethargic. We feel numb. But we don't really know what to do. We just kind of keep moving through life, but not really doing anything. Now, the final 10%, that's the one you want to avoid. They're the ones who do the wrong thing. Instead of being able to respond, they behave inappropriately, counterproductively. They make the situation actually much worse. They freak out and they can't pull themselves back together. And that final 10%, they don't do so well. So if you're fortunate enough to be in that first 10%, you won't have a problem taking action, deciding to sign up for a course or go to counseling or, doing something, getting the necessary help. But if you're like most of us, that 80%, then you will feel frozen. And it almost feels like deciding to do something seems overwhelming. The key to breaking out of that brain lock or that analysis paralysis is to shake off the shock and to figure out what to do. But whatever you do, do something. Because staying frozen, just kind of waiting, doesn't get you anywhere. You want to be able to move forward, because the longer you wait to move forward, the more you prolong the pain. The second contributing factor, I believe, is analysis paralysis. In the newsletter titled Whether to Get Help, I explained the concept of analysis paralysis. According to the research of Amos Tversky and Eldar Shafir, uncertainty, just that not knowing, alters our ability to take action, to make decisions. In their research, 61% of people will put off making a decision that lets them pursue a goal that they really want if uncertainty is involved. It's almost like until that uncertainty is removed, they can't make a decision to do something. For example, with infidelity, you have no earthly idea whether or not your marriage can make it. That's certainly uncertainty. But you do have a desired outcome, I bet you. And it's getting out of a misery that you're in, the pain that you're currently experiencing, or wanting just a better life. And even though you want to get out of that miserable pain, 64% of us are going to put off doing what we need to do to start getting out of this because we don't know whether or not the marriage could survive or if the other person can change, which is crazy because we don't want to get caught up in that analysis paralysis. Logically, it doesn't make sense. Why in the world do we choose to wait to see what's going to happen before we take the necessary steps to heal. You might be thinking, hey, Rick, I don't know whether or not I even want the marriage, which is exactly the point. That's that uncertainty. And you're right, you don't know. But you do know that you want something better than what you currently got. The solution to analysis paralysis is the same as the solution to shock. Take action. You may not know what the outcome's going to be, but do something. As Robert Sharma says, making no decision is a decision to do nothing. And to do nothing always brings you to nowhere. In any given situation, the best thing you're going to be able to do is the right thing. The next best thing you're going to be able to do is the wrong thing. But the worst thing that you're going to be able to do is nothing. Waiting to get help only prolongs your agony. And who wants to do that? When faced with a crisis, Steph and I learned long ago that we have to shake off that shock, accept it's where we're at, but do something, spit in the face of uncertainty, and implement what seems likely the wisest thing we can come up with to get what we want. We try to make a decision and take action as quickly as possible. We don't sit there and get frozen. In fact, we'll sit there, and this is just us from a spiritual perspective, we'll sit there and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We pray about it. We say, okay, God, you've got 3 days to block it. If you don't want us to do this, then block it. Maybe another way of looking at that is you make that decision. You say, okay, unless something significant comes up that says this is a bad idea, this is what we're doing. But we make that decision, give it a short period of time to look at it, and then we go forward. Because we don't want to stay stuck. You don't have to know the outcome before you make the decision to choose life after infidelity. It's so tragic to me that I've seen so many people doing nothing, waiting for their mate to decide whether or not they even want the marriage. Because of that uncertainty, they don't even do what they need to do to start getting help. And they're paralyzed by that uncertainty. You may not know in the long run what you want, but I promise you, you don't want what you got. And the first step to changing that is doing something so that you can find what you do want, to healing.